So here we go. Toxic leadership. What is it then? Well, it's a weird thing, and it's not new. It's nothing new. This is not a new phenomenon. And you think, blimey, I look out. This is on the way. No, it's been here for ages, and ages and ages. It needs three. It needs three components for it to work, and I will just look at them, shall we? And the first thing toxic leadership needs is a toxic leader. Really, is a leader that comes to a post because usually toxic leadership does not grow within an organization. It's brought in. Someone brings in to the organization a style, a way of leadership that is unpleasant, that could be called all sorts of different things, destructive. It could be hubristic. It could be all of those negative leadership traits. Someone comes into an organization with those traits and says to themselves and the people they're going to lead and to the organization in general, this is how I'm going to do it. Okay, so let's look at that first, shall we? Imagine an organization that is pretty well known, has been doing okay, is probably long-standing, okay, but it's losing pace, losing its marketplace. It's just not quite what it was. And the board start fretting and panicking, or just think, we've got to do something. We've got to do something. We can't keep losing place. So they get rid of the sales and marketing leader, and they bring in someone else. Okay, because they think this needs freshening up. We've got to get a new look at this. So they bring someone else in who absolutely blows them away at interview with what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, and the things that they're going to make happen to the organization or the part of the organization they are involved in. And the board or the interview panel buys it. But they buy it mostly because they haven't really done very, very good interview. They've fallen for the trap of being blinded by someone saying all these things they're going to do and all these wonderful stuff that they're going to make happen. They never ask the detailed question. They never ask how. They just go, ooh, that'll be good. Oh, that'll be great. That'll solve all our problems. And we all know, all of us on this call know, that unless you question at interview, you run the risk of a very, very expensive mistake, because recruitment mistakes are incredibly expensive, and recruitment mistakes when you are recruiting higher level are even more expensive. And so what they've done is they've had this interview, this person, and by the way, none of this is gender specific. It's not any gender tends towards the destructive. It can be anybody. So the interview takes place and the decision is made, and they're so excited about bringing this new leader in. And there is point one of the toxic triangle. They've now put in place a destructive, toxic leader. So already the troubles are starting. They won't see them, but the troubles are starting. The toxic leader now needs a group of people that they can influence and bring with them and put these plans into place. The problem is the plans are probably never, ever going to work in the way they said they were going to work, because destructive and toxic leaders make promises that they can't possibly keep. I'm not going to go into detail, but we've all seen toxic leadership over the last period of time. We've seen toxic leadership where people have said, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do the other. It was never going to happen. It couldn't possibly happen, but people fell for the story And so off the leader went. But what the leader now needs, because they realise, I've got a bit of a problem now because I don't really know how we're going to do this. I think what I'll do is I'll go into sort of bully mode. I'm going to go into, I'm telling you this is what we're going to do. I'm not going to listen to anyone who says anything different. And anyone who dares to say anything different to me, I will ridicule, because that's one of the things with a hubristic leader, is that they will ridicule anyone who stands up to them. Perhaps I should have asked this. Sorry, I'm using the word hubristic, and I'm using it all the time. Is everybody okay with the concept of hubris, or do you want me to just spend 2 seconds outlining it? Okay, I'll do it. Right. Hubris comes from Greek mythology. It is it's the punishment that was sent down by the gods to a mortal who was acting as if they were a god. So that's the start of it. Now, what it is people who believe their own publicity, who think they're better, they're wonderful because someone's told them they're wonderful. And so when they get into any kind of position of power, then they will just cling to that. They will do what they think they should be doing without regard of whether it's the right thing or wrong thing. They will do that because that's what someone like them sitting in this chair does. So hubris is very dangerous. You'll all see it in your workplace. Next time someone gets promoted, have a look at them on the Monday they come in after the Friday when they've just been promoted. And if they're one of those ones that you say, who's that? I don't recognise them. That's not who they were on Friday. It's because they've changed and they think they have to change to be this new role. Well, of course, what they do changes. Maybe how they dress changes, but the person, doesn't have to change. And the ones who change their personality, we tend to call hubristic. So the hubristic leader now is in post thinking, what am I going to do now? I've got to get this in place. And what they need susceptible followers. This is the second part of the triangle. They need susceptible followers. They're going to go into a team, don't forget, who've just lost their leader. So they're all going to be a little bit jittery, aren't they? They're all going to think, I wonder if my job is okay. I wonder if I make the noise, if I say to people, I'm not sure about this, will I be next? So they're going into an atmosphere of uncertainty, may even be fear, because people have seen the boss go, and they're all wondering who's next. Now, the thing about susceptible followers is there's two types, because what we've got is colluders and conformers. Colluders, well, they're gonna get as close as they can to this new leader. Colluders are going to almost copy the behaviours of the new leader. Why? Because they think they might be safer there. It's this business about you inside or outside of the tent. So they get inside the tent and get as close as they can to this new leader. They'll be the ones who are nodding all the time, telling them how wonderful they are. They'd be telling everybody outside, what a breath of fresh air, this is brilliant. We're going to take the place by storm. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Again, they have to rely on no one asking them how. Because the minute someone asks how, they're in trouble because they don't know how. You're going to do it because the leader said we're going to do it. We're not sure how. But what this leader will bring in is a bit of energy and will possibly lift the team. And there's every likelihood of there being an uptake in figures, which proves to the board they've made the right choice because things are going better. So as far as the board are concerned, they can pat themselves on the back and say, yeah, we did the job. We brought someone in and this is the way of it. But the colluders are helping along. The colluders are making sure that no one gets close enough to really question what's going on. How are these figures happening? Is it in football terms, a new manager bump? Is it that? And maybe not. But until someone asks them why, no one's going to know how things are happening. But apart from the colluders, you've got another group, okay? Conformers. Now the conformers are going to conform. Wow, who'd have thought that? That's a good name for them. They're going to conform. They're not going to rock the boat. They're not going to ask questions. They're not going to do that because they really are afraid about the future. In these uncertain economic times, they could be thinking, if I make any kind of fuss, it could be a problem. Definitely could be a problem for me. And so the colluders will just stay quiet. You know the phrase, don't put your head above the parapet? That's the colluders. They'll just head down and hope whatever happens, and they haven't got to make any fuss about it. In followership terms, there are 5 kinds of followers. We know that now. Okay. The followers that this toxic leader needs, really, they need isolates, and isolate followers are the ones who don't actually engage with the leader or the team. Okay, they just do their job. I'm not saying they're not worthwhile to have in the workplace, but they do their job, but they have no interest in the leader, and they don't really care much about the team either. They just get on with it and get their pay. Well, you might be thinking, how on earth can you have anybody in your team like that? Anybody who works in retail, these are the people who come in for the Christmas holidays. You know, they're only going to be there 3-4 weeks. So of course they don't get involved in the team. Of course they don't know much about their leader. They're only there for 4 weeks' pay. Lots of them are students on holiday or whatever. They don't know anything at all about leaders. Because they don't know anything, and because they don't play any part in the team, they have absolutely no effect upon the way the team is running. So this toxic leader will love that, because there'll be no challenge coming from them. The other kind of follower that the toxic leader needs is a bystander. The followership, the 5 types of followers are differentiated by their level of engagement with the team. And the 2 lowest engagements is isolate and bystander. Well, just going back to isolate, just to think about your teams, if you've got an isolate in there, you've got questions to ask yourself. The first one is, do they want to be isolate? Some people do. Some people will just go, I'm just head down and doing my job. Or are they made isolate because of the way the team is running? Is this something you've done? Is this something someone else has done that they've put the barriers up and gone, leave me out of this? So if you have got isolates in your team, please have a look. And then, but the second group, bystanders.
Look, bystanders. What did you do there? Would you come on the trip of a lifetime with all your friends and family?
What? Was that a question or was that a loudspeaker? Please tell me it's a loudspeaker. Okay, I'll carry on then. If you have got questions, please let me know. All right, that just scared me a little bit then. So bystanders, okay, they are a little bit more engaged with than isolates, but then they would be, wouldn't they? Because isolates are pretty much not engaged at all. A bystander knows a bit about the team, knows a bit about the leader, but makes a decision to adopt neutrality. They don't do anything other than the bare minimum as far as interface is concerned. They're the ones, if you're having a Christmas do, they'll go, no, not for me. Or if you're having a raffle in the office for Red Nose Day, they'll go, no, not for me. They just don't engage at all. And of course, because they don't engage, they have no effect on the status quo. So this destructive leader we've got will be delighted with this, because no one's, the bystanders are not getting anything done. They're not going to step in and say, I'm not sure this is the way to do it. Bystanders, by the way, are what Martin Luther King said, for bad things to happen, good people need to stand aside and do nothing. I think he meant bystanders, really. And there are natural bystanders, and then the people who are not natural. They just go, oh no, I'm not getting involved in that, you know. So, but those are the two followership types that this triangle needs to make it work and to make it effective. Okay. So the conformers are likely to be isolates, bystanders. Why are they acting as they are? Look, I would say it's absolutely natural. You know, people will say, in all this upset and upheaval, do I really want to be one of the ones that says, excuse me, I don't think this is right? You've got to be a strong character to do that. And the toxic leader is hoping that the toxic leader is hoping that they keep it like that. Because the toxic leader is growing in strength, but in a vacuum of checks and balances. They don't want to be questioned. They don't want people outside to be saying, why are you doing this? How is this happening? And also they don't want to give their team an outlet for any, I don't know, disgruntlement that they might have. They want to keep it in-house. So they will rely on their colluders to almost keep things in-house. Any problems, colluders deal. Okay? What they don't want is any of the other three types of follower. They don't want activists, they don't want participants, and they don't want diehards. It's the diehards who have brought down many, many toxic leadership triangles. Why? What's a diehard? Diehard is the absolute extreme, the furthest away from an isolate you could ever be. The diehard says you will either be the best boss they have ever met in their life. They will absolutely worship you. You are wonderful. But you've got to do. Oh, sorry, my nose is itching. You've got to do stuff to make them think that. So you'll include them in decisions and stuff like that, and they will be in with the colluders. They definitely will. But because a diehard puts everything into being a member of the team, as soon as something goes wrong and they feel they have been slighted in some way, then a diehard will literally kill their career to bring to note what's going on. They become a whistleblower. And whistleblowers tend to be the ones who bring down toxic leadership triangles. Because they don't mind going to the board or anyone who listen, in extreme cases, to the press to say what's going on. They don't mind doing that, and they know then that it's probably going to mean that they're going to leave their job, and sadly, it might even be a stain on their reputation. It shouldn't be, but it has been in the past. Okay, so we're running along now with our toxic leader. They're working with the board. The board think they're great. They turn things around, seemingly, and there's better production. It's a transaction though in this team, because the toxic leader will say, if you do this, if you do this, I will do that for you. And so maybe they've upgraded the bonus system. Maybe people are getting slightly more pay. Possibly, one of the things I've seen happen is that people get time off. You know, suddenly it's all much more relaxed. The toxic leader is allowing people to break the rules almost. And they'll say things like, shh, don't tell anybody outside of this now. We'll just keep this amongst ourselves, and I'll give you all. You've done really well this month. Have a couple of days off next month. Things like that, and you wouldn't think that was toxic, except when you look at what happens when that particular carrot that's being dangled has been eaten, and there's no carrot left. Then what the toxic leader falls back on is the stick. And then it's, look, get this done, or we need to instigate procedures. We're going to get you out of this. And it's just awful. For the people who are there, it's awful. Okay. So we're 2/3 through now. Because the other thing we need is a conducive environment. We need an environment where people say, "Oh well, no, just let it go, let it go." We're all doing well now. We're all seemingly doing okay. The pressure's off. The fact that the previous manager's been sacked, whether we thought it was fair or unfair, it's gone and it's done now. It's in the past. We can't do anything about it. This conducive environment means that there's almost a conspiracy of silence going on. And I don't know how many of you remember the terrible thing that went on in US gymnastics in, I think, 2018. I think it was. There was a toxic leadership triangle. Okay, a toxic triangle where the team doctor, whose name was Larry Nassar, of all people, the team doctor was systematically abusing the gymnasts, but nobody said anything about it. The rest of the team knew what was going on, but nobody said anything about it. I think in the end, there was 250 gymnasts were abused when it finally came out. And it went on 1992 to 2015. This went on. That's a long time for something like this to happen. But eventually, when the bubble burst, everything came flooding out. And you'll see it wherever a toxic leader eventually retires, gets out the way, or someone summons up the courage to get rid of them. Then everybody comes up and says, "Oh yeah, this happened to me as well. This is what they were doing. This is what it was like." Okay, so that conducive environment suddenly starts to creak a little bit, So we've got it. We've got the three pieces in place. Okay. I promise myself I won't go ask any questions of you as a group because there's too many people here for someone to answer. But if you have had experience of toxic leadership, then you'll know how difficult it is to be in there. If you've had an experience of toxic leadership and you are being led by a toxic leader, the disempowerment you feel is unbearable sometimes. There's nothing I can do about it. And actually what it does is it just underlines the great phrase, people join companies but leave managers. People will leave a company they love because of the manager they've got. They will. And an awful lot of that can be attributed to toxic leadership. Okay. So imagine if you're in one of those teams and you're just not sure really what to do about it. You can always talk to someone. If in your own organizations, there should be mechanisms for people to talk honestly and openly. People shouldn't be afraid, and I'm not going to talk about it except to mention it, which should be present. If you have got a psychologically safe workplace, people should be okay to say, look, I need to talk to someone about this. But I know with my practitioner head on and all the years that I worked in organizations like this, it can be psychologically safe. You can have everything's in place, but people will still be too scared, too afraid, too desperate that they won't put their hand up. Why? For some people, any job's better than no job. For some of the colluders, they get into places in their career that their ability level should never take them. They're getting there on the back of a leader who just rides roughshod over people, who will just, I don't know. I'll use the phrase, you can have a guess if you know what I'm talking about, who says things like fake news. No, I don't know where I got that from. I'm sure I heard someone say it once in a transatlantic television program, but I'm pretty sure I've heard someone say fake news. And I've got a feeling there might be an element of hubristic leadership in there. But have a look at what happens at anybody who stands up against someone who is hubristic. They disappear quite quickly. They really do. And it's nothing about being one side of the Atlantic or another. We actually had a Chancellor of the Exchequer in this country who disappeared after a couple of weeks because he disagreed with a hubristic leader. So we have to be aware of it. So our organisations may well be set up to allow people to make a point about things that are going wrong. But how on earth do we encourage people to do it when to do it, the big fear is it's going to get back to this leader and their life is not going to be worth living, which has got to be a horrible thing, hasn't it? I'm just saying, hang on a minute. Ben, where are you, Ben? Ben's just sent a message.
How you doing?
Good, thanks. What was your point? Sorry, mate. I read it quickly, but
It's just because I think sometimes it's tempting to always look at this as if you're within a team and you look up and your leader's toxic. And I think actually the better, cleverer, toxic, hubristic leaders can be really good at looking after their team, doing those little favors that you mentioned, manipulating them, kind 1 minute favors, seem to be doing the right thing by you, but actually the next minute using more bullying tactics to get what they need for their team, but ultimately getting their team fairly loyal, but actually they direct their toxicity towards the rest of the organization and actually using that little loyal army of followers who actually aren't that unhappy. They may have misgivings about their leader, but they're not that unhappy because they're getting what they want. But then they have a little army of people who take that toxicity to the rest of the organization. So just a slightly different view
it's
how I see it playing out at times. It's not always your manager's the arse. They might be, but you may not see it like that.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, a toxic leader, a good, and this is an opposite view. A good toxic leader, not that there are any, but a good toxic leader will just keep everybody else at arm's length, as you've said. We'll keep the rest of the organisation at arm's length. Look, I've known organisations with a toxic group, a group within it being led by a toxic leader that the rest of the organisation are almost afraid to call out. And that's because we've talked about what is it like being in a toxic group. What's it like managing a toxic leader? Those of you who manage managers, how would you deal with a toxic leader? What are you going to do? Because as Ben has just said, they might have a group of people who are complete supporters of them for all sorts of different reasons. Some of them because they still got a job because of them, others because they're at a much higher level than they were ever going to be anywhere else. So a lot of them rely on this toxic leader for their own position, So I just think I'm asking you the question really, as leaders, senior leaders, some of you, all of you, what would you do with a toxic leader? How are you going to dismantle this triangle? Any ideas? She says, putting you on the spot.
I'm guessing a little bit, Barry, with what you said earlier, that they don't like it when you ask how or why when they say they're going to do things. So maybe a little bit more drilling down into, how they're going to go about something. Because obviously sometimes it's the carnage they cause get into the end result.
Yeah, Sharon, you're right. Yeah, it is about asking. It's also about seeing through the rubbish that's being talked. Because you're likely to get 1,000 words when you only need 10.
It's going to Harry's. I've got it lunchtime.
All right, so that's the sort. Yes, it's about challenge, but you've got to understand that this group has to be dismantled for the good of the organisation, because it won't last. The high level of output will not last. Most, and I don't think I've been out of place saying this, most toxic leaders don't stay long in any one organisation. They tend to move about, mostly because this used to be said of chief execs. So apologies to any chief execs we got here, but it used to be said that chief execs moved on about every 4 years, which was about the time when all the stuff you did wrong would start to catch up with you. So you moved on and then took it all to another place while you were still highly marketable. Well, toxic leaders are likely to move on as well. And if you think about it, it's quite a clever thing. Because if they decide to move before it's all come to light, they can say in all honesty in their next interview with the next group of people that they're going to try and pull the wool over their eyes is, I'm leaving because I'm successful, but I want another challenge. Peter, sorry, I didn't see that. I just saw your name. Will someone read that out for me? Go on, Pete.
So his question is, I've seen it, he said, I've seen it with an HR director being the toxic leader of an HR team and the exec fearing or tolerating their bad behaviour as they're afraid of tackling it. Or they just didn't recognise it. And didn't want to, even when told about it. Yeah.
Hi Barry, sorry, it's not Peter, it's Sue. I'm using his computer, but I think you'll probably recognise who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I do recognise who you're talking about. But the thing is that sometimes the exec team is blinded by what they see as the effectiveness of this toxic leader. But you can't wait for them to go. You can't say to yourself, if you are the chief exec, you can't say to yourself, well, they'll be gone soon, so we'll just put up with it, because they're bound to. To earn your money, to be a proper chief exec, you've got to take this on. You've got to take this challenge on and dismantle the team. How? How are you going to dismantle it? Do you find a reason for moving them on? Do you have some pretty unfortunate conversations? There has to be a way, because if you don't, of course, the other thing, go on, James. Sorry.
It's just, I guess, it's questions to your question. I was thinking about them anyway. Is with a toxic leader, where does that develop from to get to that point? And can you, to answer your question a bit, which is immediate and honest feedback at the point of recognition of one of the toxic traits or an event, but then if they're in that position with toxic leaders, can you break it down? And is it and I'm assuming it's a lengthy process.
Yeah, it is. Okay, first thing, to answer your first question, where do they come from? Some of them are colluders in a previous life. They've seen a toxic leader do very well doing what they do, and so they copy. Really, they see that as the leadership style to adopt because they've seen what they see as success in it. I mean, their people awareness is very low on the grid. You know, if you've got a people aware and you've got a production aware, they will be very low on the people aware. They're more likely to be sort of, well, they're going to just be tellers, aren't they? They're just going to get on with it, do it. That's going to be their style. They'll see a toxic leader that they've just come into contact with be successful. They've been taken under their wing because they're a colluder and they want to tell a toxic leader they're wonderful. They take them under their wing, and then when they get a chance, they're going to do the only thing they know to be successful is copy. And that's where we get them from. I mean, anyone who then says, as you said, take them on, let's take them on. Yes, it's a lengthy process, and you've got to be absolutely certain in what it is you're taking on. You've got to. You can't do any of this wishy-washy stuff with a toxic leader. It's got to be factual. This is why things are as they are. This is what I'm asking you about. Now take me through this. It could take weeks or months of prep, which is horrible, really, because all that time it takes, there's people in the team having a ghastly time of it. But you've got to put that prep time in to make sure that when you do confront them, you're on absolutely solid ground. And if they offer to go, take it. Okay, shake their hand as soon as they say, that's it, I'm going then. Right, okay, when you finish it, let's go the end of the week and we'll pay you up, all of that. But the idea is you get rid. Of course, what you might also do then is you're probably going to lose some of the colluders, because the conformers are going to see that they're going. And once the toxic leader is out of the way, that's when everybody gets exposed. Look at what happened whenever you've got a toxic leader of a country. Look what happens when they disappear. You get all the ordinary people turning on their supporters. This happens all the time. This happened time immemorial, and we can go down all the different routes, from the French people who turned on the Vichy government at the end of the war to almost everything, really. The minute people leave power, the ordinary people turn on those who supported them. So if you are going to dismantle this, get ready to lose possibly a sizable chunk of the team. Okay, does that sound all right? That it's the hardest thing, is being in charge of a toxic leader. Also, they're very good at ego stroking. Very, very good at making it seem like they're your best friend. He says, from bitter experience. I mean, I fell for it for a little while, and then realised that actually what we had was a toxic leader. And the way I did it was, we went out for a coffee, me and this particular toxic leader, and I just laid it out completely. I'd spent a little while getting all my facts in place. I just laid it out and said, look, this is what's happening. Be careful with your choice of vocabulary. Never use the word I think when you're dealing with a toxic leader. Never, ever. You've got to be absolutely certain this is what's happening, and I'm not prepared for it to go on. And you've just got to be as tough as that. And I know loads of people think, oh, I don't really like conflict, and I'm not sure about taking this on. Look, the alternative is to let it run, and you then become a colluder in your own way. So once you know it's there, you have to take it apart. You've just got to, and you do it by being by buying yourself a great big pair of pants, putting them on, and taking them on. Just taking them on, and be prepared for abuse and threats and all of that. Get ready for it all, but stick to your guns. This is what happened. Tell me it didn't happen, because I know it did. Never, ever reveal where you got the information from, because it could have been someone who was a conformer, who was too afraid to say anything but said something to you. You don't want to reveal that. You just want to say, I know this happened. Okay. Just as a quick moment, I hope you all know that on your screen you can do a raise your hand thing, like James just did just then. If you've been aware, or if you are aware of toxic leadership in your organisations now or in the past, can you put your hand up? I just want to see how prevalent it is. Whoa, look at this. Okay, wow. My God, it's an epidemic. Look at all of this. It's pretty scary, isn't it? Those of you who haven't raised your hands, you lucky devils, to have not put up with this. Oh, good. Okay, thank you. Thanks for that. Any questions now for me about anything I've covered, or any further explanation you need? Anybody? I'm happy to deal with them. No,
Go back to your last point,
please.
Barry. I think you started off with toxic leaders. They come in, so they'll have been successful somewhere to get into a leadership role, whether that be either they're a colluder, so have been promoted for supporting, or I think you mentioned the pace setting style, fast, so they're capable of delivering results in one way, shape or form, which is either over promotion of a technical expert. So the starting point is a promotion, maybe when they shouldn't. But within there's some motivation and desire to succeed. But they've never maybe had the leadership or the mentoring necessary, using one of your terms from previous training. If you reframe what success looks like for them, rather than the focus on the outputs, on how you achieve them, rather than get rid, could you optimize? Do you believe you can optimize their desire to improve and give results, or are you better off getting rid and going back to the drawing board and finding somebody that maybe is a bit more complete?
You've done it again, haven't you, James? You always ask me a tough question. I like it though. Look, the answer is no. You shouldn't automatically wash your hands of someone, right? If you can get them to change their style and change it properly, not change it to keep you happy. If you can get someone to fundamentally change the way they lead, that's really rewarding. It really is. Most people who become hubristic leads, and although so many of you have been aware of this and have experienced it, in percentage terms, they're quite few and far between, people who would choose to lead in this way. So, but still, if you can change someone, that's brilliant. But in my experience, most people who choose to lead like this because A, they think anything other than leading like this is not going to work, or B, they think this is the only way that they can work. They've only got one style. All the stuff we talk about in previous courses about if someone asks you what's your leadership style, the correct answer should really be, well, I haven't got one. It depends what I'm doing. They haven't got that. They've only got one, and they stick to it ad nauseum almost. They stick to it, and just to follow on with that, and I will get to the other questions. Just to follow on with that, the one thing we might need to be aware of is that there are some organisations who want toxic leadership. Why? Because the MD or the chief exec leads toxically, and so toxic leadership becomes the norm. That's how it is in this organisation, and if you don't like it, you better find somewhere else to work, which is unfortunate, and it actually turns toxicity on its head. Because if the norm is toxic and you go in and you want to lead something non-toxically, then you're the toxic one. As far as the organisation is concerned, it's you's toxic, not them. And that's sometimes worth just remembering that. Right, I've got two hands up, so I don't mind who goes. Sharon, do you want to, is that a question or are you? Is it okay? Cool. And there's another hand up. I can't read you. Sheila, is that a question or are you just got your hand up? Okay, thank you. All right. Any other points? Any other questions?
There was a comment from Wayne. He said it can be very difficult if the person / manager that you have an issue with has support further up, and even when you raise it, you're berated / silenced. I've seen evidence of this with colleagues in the past raising some very good concerns that everybody had, but nobody would speak up about.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, you're right. It all adds to work not being a very nice place. And the minute it's like that, you are not effective. You as a worker, you as a member of the team, you're just not effective. Not as effective as you could be if we could just get this sorted out. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks for your comments. Okay. Anything else? Beck, you want to put up something about the next one of these, do you?
Yeah. So thanks for that segue. We've confirmed our next webinar. Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
Our next webinar is going to be on the Friday, the 12th of September. We're trying to do these every other month, sort of roughly. And that's going to be with our colleague, Linda Campbell. She's a transformational and culture specialist. And Linda's session is going to be on breaking free from silent confidence killers and leading with authenticity. So I'll pop a link in the chat now and I'll share that out. I've also put a feedback form in there. We're not quite at the end, but just in case. And if you have any questions, my email's there as well. So I'll just pop that in the chat.
Thanks, Beck. And you're going to send out the PowerPoint for this, Beck?
I will. Yes, I will. Oh. So Barry's kindly put that all together and I'll share that with everybody along with the recording.
And obviously, it goes without saying, if anybody's got a question or they want something or you want to know more about toxic leadership, then drop me, Mark, or Beck an email, and we'll happily deal with any questions. Okay. Everyone all right? No more questions? No more queries from me? Okay.
I just want to say, Barry, it was really interesting, and when you asked people's experiences of toxic leadership, I think I've experienced quite a few along the way in my career. And I've also experienced toxic colleagues as well, where they've been hell bent on, where, for example, they've had sort of a slightly more senior role to myself, and they've been, really worried that they've got somebody coming alongside and they might challenge, their own abilities. I felt in a particular role, and that toxicity actually led to me leaving because they felt threatened. I felt, when I got into my role, I was working in a university, and from the word go, things weren't working because I don't know. I think maybe, well, whatever reasons they were, when it's challenged in terms of behaviour, which is not conducive to effective working, and then you also need to strengthen the management team above you to deal with that situation. And anyway, you made a good point in that when you're faced with this sort of thing, that you either leave or you try and put up with it, but it also has a psychological impact on emotional impact as well.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Sheila. It's horrible. It's horrible. Toxic colleagues. Well, why do people come into work thinking I'm going to make it unpleasant for someone today? Usually the same person, but still, why do they? I can't understand it. I mean, because of my character, I've always gone at it. I've always just gone at it. I've never ever backed away. If someone's being horrible, then I'll have a go. I'll find out why. And I just don't like it anyway. But I'm really sorry you've had to put up with it more than once. Viv, is that a question, Viv?
Yes, Barry. Very interesting to listen to you. So thank you for your thoughts. I was just wondering, when there is toxic leadership, is it possible to fix it with training, or is it just better to deal with it in a different way?
I honestly, Viv, I'm going to be negative here. I mean, I wouldn't say this normally. I'm a trainer, but there's some things training can't fix, and this is one of them. Because training only works if the person being trained wants to take on new information, wants to change, wants to do something. And toxic leaders are because they're convinced of their own infallibility, don't see the need for training. They're likely to say, well, I don't need this, it's not for me. And you can't train their team, you can't train the colluders, because they will say the same thing. Train us in what are you going to train me in? I look how well I'm doing. I just feel that you just can't train this out. I'm sorry to say, Viv, that's a trainer saying, no, that won't work. But no, I cannot see how you can train it out to someone.
Question off the back of that.
Is that because it's ingrained in? Sorry.
Go on,
Sorry, I
Viv.
was going to say, is that because it's ingrained in the culture of the organisation? So because it's there and it's been tolerated for so long.
Yeah, I don't think it would be ingrained in the culture. Well, there are cultures. There are organisations with toxic cultures. We know that. We're aware of that. There are organisations like that. But this lack of appropriate training is usually down to the individual. Not often.
Right. Okay.
I don't think you could train an organisation. You could train out of an organisation a toxic culture. It's there because it suits them. Really, it keeps people in power for the start off. It keeps them, I mean, if we went back 2 or 3 generations, maybe 50% of the organizations working were toxic. It was keep them down, give them nothing, but luckily it's changing. But I wish I could say you could train it out, so I don't think you can. Sorry, Viv.
Okay, thank you.
Next, please. James. Hang on, Sharon, I'll be with you now. Go on, James.
Sorry, but
all right.
It's one of the comments just triggered a thing. It's increasingly difficult to spot some traits, and it triggered a memory from about 8 years ago when we started the leadership journey with you on started emotional intelligence, about an article that we read as part of the training, which is the dark side of EI.
Yeah.
Couldn't record it all, so quickly looked at it, and it said about the 3 different types, or the types of emotional intelligence, that the dark triad, the Machiavellian, psychopathy, and narcissism. I'm not remembering this, I'm reading it, so but is there a strong
James, I was so impressed then. That was something
is there a strong link between those types of people and toxic leadership?
Yeah, you've just outlined the 3 most common types of people, leadership, the EI traits for toxic leaders. Machiavellian, because they're always got some sort of plan going on, and they're playing one person against the other. I mean, if you really want to get rid of some of these, then you insist on transparency in your leadership teams. If you are pushed to transparency, then you will have to tell people what's going on, and that stops quite a bit of it. But nice one, James. I do remember that article, actually. Cool. Sharon.
Yeah, I was just going to follow on from the question Viv asked about can L&D fix the toxic leadership, and you've said pretty much not. On an other angle of that, even though it can't fix it, you mentioned about how maybe the leader can manage that toxic leader that maybe they are having to manage. Could, through support of you guys, help coach and mentor that person into managing that toxic leader to help them see and help them grow? So yes, that's another angle of the L&D side.
It is, yeah. And thanks, Sharon. You're right. Yeah, that can happen.
Okay.
Again, though, it's got to be with a person who wants to do that. And this is tough. This, right? This is tough. This is not tough love. This is just because taking them on You've got to really, really go for it. Stand up to them and go for it. But yes, you can get coaching that would enable a leader who's maybe a little bit unsure. You could enable a leader to get into the position where they are taking them on.
Lovely, thank you.
All right, Sharon. Sheila.
No, I can't get rid of the hand at the moment on there. I do apologise.
Your hand must be aching like anything now. That
It is.
hand
Oh,
thing
I
there
know.
all
I
the time.
know.
Okay, Viv, are you okay as well? Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Any other questions, guys, or we will call it quits.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Anything to say, Beck? Anything to say, Mark? Are you okay?
Just if you wouldn't mind taking a second to complete the feedback form, that would be very much appreciated. And if
Yes.
in that is a sort of all important question of if there are any topics that you particularly would like us to cover in these, then please do let us know, because that's really helpful in, you know, shaping this so that it's useful to everybody. And thank you so much for joining us. It's been a really great session, really great questions, and obviously Barry, brilliant as always.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks
Okay.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice to
Have a
see
good
you.
weekend.
Nice to see everyone.
Take care.